Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Hairless Boston Terrier.
What? What?
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Hey everybody, it's me, Tom Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We are thrilled to death that you're listening to our show.
Yes,
Indeed. It's just me and Tony here today.
Hanging out.
Rob's buried in amps again, because that's what his life involves.
Yes.
It would be nice to just be like, hey, I can't go anywhere because I just have too much money being thrown at me.
I put like 3 big amps in front of his door, so he really can't get out.
I see.
Yeah.
And Jared is slinging pickups over at Gibson right now. So
That's right.
But that's okay because you've got us and this special guest on the line.
Angelo from Renzo Sound.
Welcome, Angelo. We are glad to have you on the show. We're going to get all up into Renzo Sound's business. Where can people go to find the things that you are doing right now?
Sure, you can visit renzosound.com or Instagram. It's going to be renzosound_. You
sound eerily like Alex Giraldi from Copper Sound. It's kind of weird. When you first started talking about it, I was like, whoa, that's weird.
Yeah.
Just a little bit higher pitch. A little bit higher pitchy, dog. But it's there. Anyways, with that,
We can never have them
Alex,
on.
you can be the judge of this. I think he still listens to the show in the shop. Hello, Alex. Hello, people from Copper Sound, doing great things over there as per usual. If you need a VO double, I think you might want to hit up Angelo here. Okay. I took a really hard left turn there. Sorry about that.
I think that was a Yui.
All right. We've got a great show in front of us, so we want to get through all of the rigmarole up front, but it's good rigmarole.
Yeah.
A couple of announcements. Number one. I got a message from Dr. No this week, and actually I think a few people did. It wasn't a direct one to me. It just announced something. But, he came up a while ago with the skull fuzz. Literally a skull with eyeballs.
Yep.
And it was a fuzz. Well,
are the eyeballs how you adjust things? Is that right? Is that where the knobs are?
I've never played one, so I don't know.
Okay.
But that's entirely possible. He's very, very clever with his workings. But he just did a special edition of those where he flocked them. So it's got white fuzzy flocking. That would actually be not unlike like a hairless guinea pig or something.
This is true.
Along those lines. And then, but to top, you say, how can you do anything better than that, Dr. No? And he said, well, with the third eye skull fuzz, which literally has 2 eyes in the front and 1 right in the middle of the forehead, with like a brow ridge around it and everything. It's remarkable looking. I mean, it's really, really bizarre looking. And it's just, I love the fact that he gets so immersed into his craft. It's just so cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
There is a very, very, very limited run of those, and I believe they are available or will be in a day or a week or something like that. If you are remotely interested in that, I suggest you check out Dr. No or do a search for the Third Eye Skull Fuzz. And the thing is, it's under his Imaginarium, Dr. No's Analog Imaginarium. That's where you can find this, Dr. No's Analog Imaginarium. The second thing is, I want to let you in on a few things that we found out from our pal Michael Davenport. Michael Davenport, new executive producer, sent this regarding his new gear and all that business. And Michael is from Gateshead, UK. I don't know what part of the...
Right near Newcastle.
Ooh, that might make him a Geordie.
It could be.
Main gear of choice is anything with a level of uniqueness about it. Guitars like them to be alive, if that makes any sense. I have a real addiction to boutique stuff. Marcus Reeves pedals, from, Reeves. Mm-hmm. And Cliff Brown's 633 amps. Things where someone with a passion has made something brilliant. hey, that's what this show's all about, which is obviously why he chose to support us. My favorite part of your show is the interviews. They've all been interesting. The guests have been great, have great backstories, and the questioning and the rapport with yourself is engaging. I do have a good rapport with myself. Been listening on and off for a year or so, but have really gotten into your stuff in the last few weeks. Loved your talks with my fellow Geordie. Aha!
Fellow Geordie.
Wooly from Champion Lecky. He's Darza. I'm imagining that's good.
Yes.
So I stuck around for more of your stuff. Thought you were worth committing to because of the consistent high quality of your shows. Well, thank you, Michael. That means a lot to us. We do try as hard as we can. Whilst I have your attention, he says, you were talking about merchandise with Wooly on a recent show, and I can't believe that nobody has suggested that he does his own beanie. The perfect Wooly hat. I guess that's what they call him over there, Woolies.
Oh.
Maybe, I'm guessing. Cheers and Gankani Mike. I guess Gankani is thank you. I'm going to guess. But hey, that was really fun. Thank you, Michael Davenport, for sending that to us. We love hearing about the people that are engaged with our show, support our show, or are just enthusiastic about it. Ooh, doggies. Now, let's get on to what's going on in our music world this week, because I know Angelo is chomping at the bit to tell us some stuff. But first, we're going to hear from our own Tanya Bolonsky. He's going to drop some goodness on us. And then, Angelo, we're going to let you rip, okay?
Sounds great.
All right. Chime in whenever you want, even if it's just to interrupt him for kicks and wiggles, okay?
Sounds great.
All right. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, in between preparing for the...
Do it now. Oh, shoot. You're not supposed to hear that.
I heard that, Todd. In between preparing for my Olympic events that I'm going to Paris for here in a few weeks.
What?
I'm gonna do the shot put.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm
excellent.
doing that. I'm putting the shot.
Okay, perfect.
So
I believe it.
Yeah, I'll be there. Look for me. Would you? No, you won't. So I think last time we got together, we were talking about a Wayne Kramer Strat that I picked up off of eBay.
Yeah.
And this is what's incredible about this. It literally was here in less than a week from when I ordered it from China. Okay. So the seller is in China. I contacted him, had a few questions. It shipped, and it was literally here less than a week in the United States.
Remarkable.
I mean, I don't know how. That's the fastest thing I've ever had shipped. The good news is it's actually a fairly decent instrument. And what I typically do with these things, of course, is to strip off all the metal parts and electronics and rebuild them. But the paint job was actually very cool. And for those who don't know, Wayne Kramer had a Strat that was painted.
Wayne Kramer, MC5, just in case you don't know.
That's the guy who recently passed, unfortunately. So his Strat Strat body was painted in red and white stripes and a blue and Star
Spangled Stratocaster.
Thank you for filling in all those blanks.
Well, you were struggling. I was trying.
I wasn't struggling. I was just taking my time.
Angelo, I'm checking my first baseline. Did he check or not?
I think so. I think it was good.
Okay.
He said it was good.
All right.
So you just relax, young man. So a couple of weird things. Okay. So I take the pick guard off, and because I like to see what's underneath, and it's not pretty underneath usually, and this one was no exception. But they put the neck about a 1/4 inch back from the end of the neck pocket. And I'm thinking, okay, what?
Or was the neck pocket too long?
Well, I think what happened, there's two things that happened. The body was routed for a 22 fret neck, and this is a 21 fret neck. But the problem with leaving it where it was is it would never intonate because...
You could move it up an inch and you'd have a baritone.
Yeah, you could do that. But anyhow, I decided that I'd go in and reset move the neck where it should be, and That way the bridge can actually intonate. And that to me is the most important thing. So I had to do some modifications on the pick guard because I didn't want to have to drill new holes in the body, blah, 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 blah. So I'm piecing it back together. I'm putting some of Zach from Brandon Wound's pickups in it. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, there's a standard Strat in the bridge and the neck and a Gibson humbucker in the middle. And so it's kind of an interesting
That's
array.
a weird combo.
Well, based on the research that I did, Wayne said that he wanted to, when he went into a lead, he wanted something that sounded different than Fred Sonic Smith's guitar.
Got it.
And that would certainly do it. And, of course, it would be considerably louder. Now, in hindsight, you would think he would have put the humbucker in the bridge position, not the middle position.
Brighter.
Well, it's a better position for that type of pickup. But that was his thing, and it was probably easier to take a screwdriver and hammer and chisel out the area for the humbucker in the middle as opposed to close to the bridge.
Sure.
But so I'm putting that together. I found some good parts for it, and hopefully within the next week or so.
It's a handsome guitar.
Well, it's pretty cool. It's it's a reasonable facsimile of the the red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
MC5 guitar.
Did you price out the reissues that Fender made?
Oh, they're going for like $3,000 or $4,000 now, since Wayne passed. Yeah, I mean, years back you could get them reasonably for $1,500, $1,800.
That's still a lot of hundreds.
Well, but whatever. It's
Angelo, would you spend that kind of money?
I'd spend the old amount of money, but getting up to where the prices are now, no, it'd be a tough buy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was $215 shipped.
Yeah.
So I think I could splurge a little.
$500 worth of work.
Well,
I mean,
I do the work.
Yeah.
So my work is free. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And then also this week, I was up in Youngstown this past weekend, and my buddy Pat from Coop Guitars is put together I'm building basically a 1962 Telecaster, and he made the body for me, and he aged out the body, which looks just killer. It's a kind of a cross between a blonde and a Olympic white. But it's aged out really nicely, and then he even did the thing, how it yellows, except for underneath the guard and the control plate and stuff.
Cool.
So right now that's all like cleaner white versus the exposed areas.
Yeah. Now help us understand when you say a 62 Tele.
Yeah.
Why is that different than any other one?
Well, there are a number of differences. In 62, it would have had. I don't think that one had I can't remember. When did they change to the slab board? So it's a rosewood neck or rosewood board neck, and I think I thought that they did the contoured, basically a rosewood cap.
Oh.
And 62 might have been the first year, but I could be wrong on that. But they did a couple of other oddball things, and they're mostly cosmetic issues. They did move the decal in a different position.
Better tone.
Yeah, the decal makes all the world of difference. Most of the...
Doesn't that make you wonder about that? Like, all the years that the headstock never changed.
Well, the headstock's still the same shape, but they just moved from the 50s. The decal was...
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, what is... We got to change this guitar.
I think,
why do we move the decal?
I think the marketing department said, well, we can't see the logo underneath them strings, so move it towards the end. And you can... It is...
That's fair.
You can see it better.
I guess so.
Yeah.
The other thing that in that era, they were shifting over from 5-hole teleguards, like the old 50s style. And 62 was right on the cusp of before they went to 3-ply guards. Also, everybody knows them as mint guards because the material had a greenish cast to it from the get-go. Most of the ones that I've seen, with the exception of the Tele Customs from that era, have a thicker white pick guard, 1 ply,
Yeah.
but with 8 screw holes.
Oh.
So it's kind of this.
Wow, you're getting into like
I'm getting into
catalog
weeds.
territory.
Yeah, and they also put a notch for the truss rod at the the little half moon thing, and it's just all these little weird things. Now 62, that's the year of my birth, so I wanted to kind of that's why I chose 62. So
Well, thank you.
there you go.
Now we all
There's your
know
history
more
lesson.
about 62 Telecaster.
Now a 63.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Okay, Angelo, how about yourself? What's going on in your music world this week?
I've been bitten by the speaker bug. I just recently picked up one of those vintage 30s in the monoprice cab. And before then, for the most part, I've had like a vintage 80 Marshalls cab. I played through like a 70s twin reverb. And then a while back, some point last year, I got a Princeton reverb made for a 12-inch speaker. So that just really sort of like, oh, maybe I should start maybe trying to retrofit. And now that I have like the whole separate cab, the whole separate speaker situation, now it's like, okay, what other 12-inch speakers do I want to try in terms of like, oh, maybe I'll try like a T75 or another sort of 80 speaker that nobody seems to like, but is very intriguing to me. And just sort of playing around with that sort of thing, maybe turning some of the current amps I have into heads, things of that nature. So really, really started to get into that mix and match spirit.
So your Princeton reverb, is that a reissue or is that a vintage one?
Yeah, this is one of the newer, I think, Guitar Center reissues where they have the 12-inch Jensen speaker. So it's much more similar to like a deluxe.
Yeah. So I years and years ago, so I had it was one of the last blackface Princeton reverbs. And those would have originally come with a 10-inch speaker. And when I bought it, someone, rather than loading the 10-inch in the back, they put a 12-inch from the front, which is really bizarre. It's probably not as safe for the speaker, I guess. But yeah, I that's why I was kind of curious as to what you have. But yeah, I think the 12-inch speaker for my money, I think for guitars, I think the 12-inch speaker is the definite way to go.
Do you have a reco on one?
I mean, I'm a big. I love Alnico, either blues or golds. I mean, those are the Celestion. Those are great. But our friends at
WGS,
Warehouse Guitar Speakers, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are in all of my amps,
and they're good speakers. They're less expensive than buying a true Celestion, but they're really designed to kind of mimic some of those.
Yep.
So yeah, but I'm a big fan of the sound of an Alnico speaker, and there's a lot of people that are big fans of ceramic speakers. Like a Celestion, a greenback or a creamback. All of those would be.
And you said you got vintage 30.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I picked up. Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, have you been looking into any others?
Yeah, surprisingly, like I mentioned, sort of the Celestion T75.
Oh, right.
And then bringing it back to the Warehouse guys, I met them at NAMM not too long ago. And their Austin speaker was really interesting to me. I guess sort of what I'm looking for currently before I go sort of too off the rails into speaker land is it's like I enjoy sort of the Fendery Jensen sound, but I'm like, I want like a little bit more percussive bottom end, something that just holds together with the volume.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I think you can get that out of a green or creamback. For my Dr. Z Maserati, I have a 212 cabinet, and it's one of the Z Best, and I have an Alnico Gold and a greenback in it, and sometimes when you mix and match, mix in this case, the two speakers, you get a nice, more leveled sound, or you at least get a little more bass response, especially out of like the greenbacks and things like that. you definitely will notice a difference.
Yeah.
And they're not terribly expensive either. I mean,
No.
That's when you get into the Alnico zone.
the Alnicos are expensive.
Yeah, indeed. Well, that's very cool. Thanks for sharing that, Angelo.
What about you, Todd?
For me, well, I got yelled at by my wife. And you
Get
might
used
say,
to
like,
it.
geez, what have you done to deserve? We were talking about something like actually really serious. And at the same time, we were in a room where I have there was a record playing, and that record was "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road," Elton John.
Sir Elton John.
And right in the middle of this like really serious thing, I stopped and I go, "Oh my gosh, that guitar tone is amazing!" And this actually, and she's like, "What?" I'm like, "No, wait, wait." And I was listening. I was like, "Wow!" And I guess it was just like where I was where in between the speakers and the volume and all that stuff. But it was track number 1 on side number 1.
Is that Goodbye Yellow Brick Road?
Funeral for a Friend.
Oh, that one.
Love Lies Bleeding.
Yes.
I mean, it stopped me dead in my track. Love Lies Bleeding. The main riff from that. Oh my gosh. The tone just blew. I mean, I couldn't even think. Whatever she was saying just came out like Charlie Brown's parents. I was like, yeah. That didn't do me any favors then. And I tried to focus again. And then he went in for the solo. I'm like, oh my gosh. She was so angry with me. But she understood. At the same time, she's like, "Oh, okay, it's an affliction.
Won't be the first time.
Yeah.
Won't be the last."
Yeah. So I did a little bit of research into this.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and that was performed by Davy Johnston.
Okay.
And born in Edinburgh, Scotland. He played all over Scotland and all kinds of various bands. Then got hooked up with Elton. Did a couple of his things. Later became like part of Elton's band.
Right.
Played with Stevie Nicks, Meatloaf, Alice Cooper, and a list of other people. But if I'm just telling you guys, like, if you're like, what does this sound like? Get in your car, do whatever you can, and just pump up the volume on this. Now, the Funeral for a Friend, just like it, don't like it, whatever. If you need to just get to the meat, it's the second part of that song. It's like 2 songs jammed together. It's just freaking fantastic. I lost my mind when I heard it.
Now, were you listening to vinyl or were you?
I was listening on vinyl. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That could make a difference.
It might. It's hard to say. But
it would be harder if you're in a car to do it on vinyl.
I will say that I listened to it on Spotify in the headphones I have right now. It was not as magnificent as it was in the room with the vinyl and the speakers.
I agree.
Where Davy Johnston, I didn't find out if he's still living or not, but regardless, thank you for that. That was outstanding. It made my day.
Nice.
Alrighty, let's get moving on to something that has to do with the things that we're going to be talking today, which is pedals.
Pedals.
Tony, you know what? When I handed you these 2 pedals,
yes,
the Winter Fuzz and the Autumn Drive made by Renzo.
Yes.
I saw you reaching for a little box of something. What was in that little box of something?
That would be my little box, actually large box, of Tour Gear Design patch cables.
That is right. That's the only box to reach for when you need to stitch some pedals together.
When you're stitching more than one.
Indeed. And these are both top mounted, so you probably just had to. You're probably reaching for the little.
I got my C's.
Yeah, the 3-inch C cable.
But if you had an instance, which some of the other pedals, if you had to connect these top mounts to a side mount,
S shape,
they've got an S shape.
They got it all. Please go over to Tour Gear Designs and check out these patch cables. I promise you will be happy.
Yes.
Asterisk. There's no legal promise behind that. But the only guarantee that I can give is that Tony and I have only bought those for the last several years.
Yep.
I mean,
They're great.
I'm never going to use any
They're
of the
flat.
cable.
The
Yeah.
little plug parts are the size of the jack.
They're outstanding.
I mean, they're tiny. You can they come in a bunch of different lengths. Of course, the C shape and the S shape. And as we often say, if you use these Tour Gear Design patch cables, you can sneak an extra pedal or two on your pedal board.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Easily.
In fact, the other thing I was doing this week, I redid my pedal board for the 162nd time, and I've got 2 rows,
Yeah.
top and bottom, and when I go from right to left,
Mm-hmm.
then I got to swing it back down to the lower shelf on the bottom right.
Yeah.
I need a long cable.
Yep. They
And
got it.
I need a long patch cable, and they got that one.
They got it. You know what else is great?
I bet they've got a discount.
They do. Just for listeners of the Guitar Knobs podcast.
Indeed.
So load up your shopping cart. You're gonna want to just buy a bunch of this stuff. They're not terribly expensive. In fact, they're very
Very
cost-effective.
affordable by all other standards.
And you load that up, you go to the checkout, and then there's a little place for a coupon code. Type in the Guitar Knobs, all lowercase, all one word. You're going to save an extra 15%.
Exactly.
That's an extra 15% off of already reasonably priced products. You get them fast. They come out of Canada, but they ship like lightning.
They do. All right. We need to thank Tour Gear Designs for sponsoring our 4 on the Floor.
Let me get a little bit of this.
1, 2, 3. 4 on the Floor. All right. Angelo from Renzo Sound. What is your 4 on the Floor?
Well, my first pedal here, I would say this started my pedal and guitar playing renaissance probably about 2016 or so. It's the Earthquaker Devices it's the Earthquaker Devices Fuzz Master General. And so it's just a really like gnarly silicone octave fuzz. And I just thought it just really opened my eyes up to using more fuzz. Before then, I had really only played like a Russian big muff. And this felt like more of an instrument. And I just really fell in love with it, fell in love with, playing guitar again and making noise again. And yeah, this really started off sort of my modern collection after that.
Awesome. Very cool. How about number 2?
Number 2, sort of again came around the same time. It's the Way Huge Saucy Box. So it's George Tripp's or Jorge Tripp's design. And, the thing I like most about it is it's just a really sort of simple but really full sounding overdrive. I don't think there's much information out there as to what it's doing sort of behind the scenes, but I do believe it's like blending overdrive into another boost circuit, and it just feels big and broad and it breathes, and I like it quite a bit. It's playing solid state amps and sort of super clean amps, sort of the Fender Blackface stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to find an overdrive that will sound sort of amp-like without it sounding like, it sounds like a transistor. So I felt like this was really my first foray into some of the really nice sounding transparent overdrives.
Rad. Let's see. Do you put that in front of anything or behind anything?
That's a good question. Sometimes it really depends. Sometimes with overdrive, I'll use it sort of at the head of my signal chain as a drive. And then at other times, I really like using a nice overdrive pedal at the end of my signal chain. And it sort of becomes like the dirty channel of an amp. And I can play everything into that with a little bit of dirt.
Oh, that's cool. You mean like after any time or modulation?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I haven't thought of that. Check you out, doing things different. How about number 3?
Number 3 is a little bit of a blast from the past. Back around, 2005 or so, I was in a band and gigging a lot, and I had a very simple pedal board at that time. And one of the pedals I had on it is the Ibanez Sound Tank Series EM5 Echo Machine. So that, I guess, is like some people's holy grail pedal. And I have to say, for something that is sort of just a simple analog delay, it really hits. And compared to something like a carbon copy, or Deluxe Memory Man or something like that, there's just something about the repeats. They're not particularly dark. They're not overly bright and hi-fi. And I just find that it just sounds, the repeats just sound like nothing else I have in my collection.
Now, this is the 90s version, or is it the dimpled?
This, I think, it's the plastic housing. So that would be like the mid 90s version.
Yeah, got it. I saw a rehoused one and I was like, wait a minute, what's this? Okay. Yeah. So it has the little, the dimples in the pedal area, like for traction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very cool. I think that series kind of gets overlooked a little bit. I wonder if it's just because aesthetically it's, maybe it looks cheap or something.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have the chorus, and it does a lot of things the other choruses don't. It has a delay time control, so you get the really, sort of tight, shimmering chorus, but then you get the really sort of loose, bubbling chorus that I had been using it with too. A great line of pedals.
These things are expensive.
Yeah, unusually so. What's funny is a local music shop was closing around me at the time I had purchased it, so I think I got it off their used display for $20 back.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I'm looking at one that's $500, man.
Yeah, they're out there.
All right. Well, guess what I'm going to be doing tonight?
Go music around site.
Yeah, absolutely. I will scour them. Well, that's kind of neato. Now you got me wanting to try that out. Doggone it. How about last?
The last pedal, again, sort of another blast from the past situation, is the Boss PH3 phase shifter. And I remember going into Guitar Center right around the time my band was wrapping up, probably 2006 or so. And I was like, I just really want a pedal that will give me a weird sound. And, this certainly does it. I think it gets a little hate because it was their first sort of digital phaser. But the thing I love about it is it gets it's just really wet and chewy sounding. It sounds great on guitar. It sounds great on synth. And it's just so far and away from like an MXR phaser, sort of the DoD sort of 2-stage phaser. Mm-hmm. This more feels like, feels more alien, just more out there. It sort of does some of the Boss PH2 sounds that bands like Incubus are famous for, just the really broad, bright sweeps. Right. I think are really beautiful. And, it just has this, some other things too. It just has this really strange arpeggiator feature that sounds really great. It does some really, really slow speeds. If you tap tempo it, you get up to 8 seconds of LFO. I find it amazing, really.
Wowzers. That's the first time that one is actually, all 4 of yours were the first time on that we've ever had those ones.
Yeah, I don't recall the other.
All 4, yeah. That's pretty rare, man. Usually, after doing this for, 8 years now, Tony? Is that? Yeah.
At least 8.
Yes, in 2016.
Yeah.
Hey, holy moly. That's the first all 4 combo that we've had in ages, I think.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, super cool. What kind of music did you play, or do you play, I guess? Or was it different then from now?
Gosh, nowadays it's so much different. Definitely, I would say my chops aren't up to par really these days. But a lot of just jazz standards, just classic rock and roll, going back and learning some of those tunes, some 90s rock and roll. I'm going back and learning some Counting Crows and Collective Soul and stuff like that. I feel like, just hanging my hat on learning and playing some mainstream rock and roll songs are is really helping my chops. And then back when I was in a band, I guess you could call it sort of post-hardcore punk. So that would be sort of pre all the emo music, but just by a few years.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, hung my hat up when everyone in the band sort of decided, oh, it's time to grow up and go to college. And then, I put music down for a while and pursued my career. And then, yeah, now it's back just as a pure, beautiful hobby.
Awesome. Well, that's a great segue. What is your actual career? Can we ask that?
Sure. It's Renzo Sound at the moment. I had officially retired from the film and television business. So before, I'd spent 15 years making television shows, sort of, if you remember the word new media, when they were calling sort of the Netflix and YouTube stuff new media. Those are the things I was working on. I spent a little bit of time in the latter half of my career working with Live Nation. And just making all sorts of things, working on TV shows, movies, stuff for the web.
Nice. Is this like editing, or what was your role in that?
I would say for the most part, it was camera work and editing. And along the way, I was able to direct some television commercials. And I got a reality show for Showtime off the ground. We won't talk too much about that. A little ill-fated. It lasted one season. But yeah, so I got to dip my toe in quite a few things.
That's cool. That's really fun, man. Well, I think we should probably start talking about the pedals in front of us and your new career. How long have you been at this new career, by the way?
So Renzo Sound will be hitting its second anniversary in August, so not too far away from when we're recording this. But I would say, my toe was in the water around 2018, 2019 about switching careers. And so I had stuff, breadboarded at that point. And then sort of, I was, lucky enough to get through the pandemic with a lot of remote work. I was already sort of halfway through editing a film and was able just to kind of keep up the freelance work. And then as the pandemic sort of slowed down and, I was looking at what I wanted to do after that, I just decided now I think is the time to pursue it 100%. And so, I'd launched the Autumn Drive in August of 2022 and been running the business ever since then.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, for those who want to maybe get ahead of the show a little bit, you can go over to renzosound.com and you've got a pretty comprehensive product page you've got two pedals out right now. Those are the ones that are sitting in front of us. The Autumn Drive and the Winter Fuzz. And on each of those pages, aside from here's what you can read about it, you've got a YouTube video and recorded sound samples. Not unlike if you go to Seymour Duncan, or actually WGS, we mentioned Warehouse Guitar Speakers. Yeah. They also have, all the different sounds that you can expect from this. I think that's a really nice touch on this, especially because, that means it's just that much easier to say, I think I want to try this pedal, and, not have to hope that it's not just the super talented fingers of whatever the demo artist is.
Yeah, and it's got both humbucker version and single coil version, which is really nice.
Very smart. Very smart.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And it actually has, like I said, it says recorded on an F-style clean amp with the Autumn Drive set at 12 o'clock. So there's no guessing. It's just right there. Check it out. How did you... Were you already I guess electronically or electrically inclined, or was that a bit of a a new learning curve?
I would say I came with some experience, most definitely all self-taught, but through the end of high school, I was lucky enough to work at an electronics lab where the owner in the same sort of commercial space put in a really nice recording studio. And I guess he had been a little bit of a record producer in the 80s. So, I was able to sort of, cut my teeth there at the recording studio and then also sort of be exposed to some inner workings of like electronics and electronic engineering and stuff like that. And at that point, I was checking out some of the DIY space and DIY forums and stuff like that. And I had sold a handful of things on eBay. God bless the people who bought those because it was not very good. I think I had like an A-Beam switcher. And I think at the time, really the only like other pedal I was making was the old Electro Distortion, which I guess would be sort of equivalent to Earthquaker's speaker cranker. So those didn't sell more than a handful of those things, and sort of, put that away as a hobby for the most part. And then, my career, oddly enough, with digital cameras and digital cinema kind of coming along at the same time, still very technical, involved with computers, involved with wiring up cable harnesses and things of that nature. And then, just when I was ready to start the business again in breadboarding stuff, I just really dove head first back into electronics engineering. Learned all the basics, but really dove into some pretty hardcore books and other just like really fringe topics to get me where I am today.
Outstanding. Was there at any point in time where you kind of got flustered and said, this is hard for me to understand, or you couldn't get past anything? Or, I mean, clearly you did, but to me, learning something from, in a linear fashion like that can be really difficult.
Yeah. I think when I really started tinkering again in 2019, I was really hitting a wall with trying to make, an overdrive do something special. And I think I went down this technical path that just stumped me. It just wasn't right. And, I think that's part of why I opened the business in 2022 is because I kind of put that stuff down for a while because I was just so stumped. So there was a learning curve.
Now, the early pedals, we're looking at this one, and these are all, not all, but there's a lot of surface mount on these. Did you, at one point, were the first ones all like, done on a board with components, or?
Yeah, most definitely. All the old school ones were definitely done, sort of on perf board, sort of the point-to-point wiring, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then sort of moving to the production pedals, it was sort of a bunch of influences. I think there were some engineering things I wanted to do with surface mount devices and like the design of the PCB for noise and other things where I was like, okay, I think I should move in this direction. Another reason is I love guitar pedals to collect in terms of like, I like swapping them out. I like having different sounds at my disposal. And part of me, wanted to keep costs down to the point where I was like, if anyone wanted to try this, they could pick it up and sort of make it a part. So, going surface mount, cuts down on labor costs. And then, from a career of sitting at the computer and video editing, I do have a bit of carpal tunnel. So the amount of time I can sit down and work on fine things with my hands is pretty limited.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to burn that out any further. So, the designs for the most part are surface mount. The final assembly, soldering in the switch, soldering in the jack, soldering in some of the larger components, building it. That's all still done by hand by me. So, I'm the, person polishing it at the end, putting it in the box, so you're getting all of my attention there.
Yeah. Well, and you designed the circuit.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, they're very. I mean, when you open it up, you sometimes when you get a pedal, you're like, "What the bird's nest is going on in this thing?" Which doesn't give you an immense amount of confidence, especially sometimes if you're gigging and you're getting your stuff banged around a lot. It's like that can some of those boutique pedals can be hard to replace. So the upside of that is that you have something that's not really going to. I could not possibly foresee that happening with something like this, which is cool. It's gonna last. gonna go the extra mile. Excellent. So let's talk about the two that you have right now, and then we'll get into what's in the what's ahead for you. You started out with an overdrive. I mean, I think anybody who's listening right now, they're probably in their head counting how many overdrive pedals they have, but that's okay because we still need all of them. It doesn't matter how many, just as long as you have them all.
You should have an overdrive pedal for every guitar that you own.
Yeah, or an overdrive to stack with every overdrive you have. That's the way I look at it. So what were you shooting for with this? Tell us some of the things that were influencing the sound you were chasing.
Yeah, of course. I think, with the Autumn Drive and starting a company with an overdrive instead of, I guess, sort of a kitschier, sort of more eye-popping sort of pedal, is I felt like I could bring like my signature design aesthetic to an overdrive. I think, every pedal builder sort of comes with an idea of what they want to do in terms of, maybe they just make clones. Maybe they really concentrate on great artwork. Maybe they want to make super bespoke vintage correct copies, so on and so forth. Everyone sort of comes with this idea. And so, one of the things, again, coming from my background, I play a lot of like pretty clean high headroom amps. The Princeton Reverb, the big old school 1976 twin reverb, a bunch of solid state amps sort of along the way in a number of jazz bands, some of the old crate stuff, things like that. And I just always felt that no pedal drive or overdrive, I just felt that no overdrive pedal like really made an amp sort of feel like, okay, we're on the edge of breakup. Everything felt a little solid state, a little buzzy and stuff like that. So I just thought to myself, okay, that's the problem I want to solve.
Okay.
And so looking at, all the different overdrives, the one that really caught my eye was like the simple hard clipper circuit, the DoD 250, the distortion plus, and sort of everything else that branches off that family tree from the Rat to parts of the DS1 and so on. And I just thought to myself, what can I do to this circuit to really make it do more? Because I think a lot of people sort of take it and it's like, it's in textbooks. It's, you can change some components and change the EQ and do a few things, but I really wanted to take that sort of like engineering mindset and sort of see what I could do. And, one of the things is I added another op amp. So now there's 2 op amp chips in there compared to 1 off of some of those other family tree pedals. Mm-hmm. And so basically I'm buffering the output sort of like a Rat. I'm also buffering the power supply. So I just really wanted like a clean hi-fi, sort of bass for the sound. Mm-hmm. I'm also using, as far as the op amps, any 5532s, which are sort of all in a bunch of recording gear. It uses a little bit more power than some of the battery operated guitar pedal stuff you would find in, say, a Tube Screamer. Mm-hmm. So my pedals for right now do end up being a little bit power hungry because of that design choice. And then, at the heart of any sort of hard clipping circuit is the diodes. And so, one of the things a lot of overdrive pedals offer is like different diode configurations and things of that nature. And, that wasn't particularly satisfying to me because I think you could go one way and go the Klon way of saying like, these are very, these are magic diodes. We only have so many of them. They do their thing and you're not going to find a supply that does the same thing versus let's just plug whatever diode in and we get what we get. So I really concentrated on, for the pedal, sort of the amount of compression that the overdrive gives and like how quickly or how abrupt it goes into breakup. And I just wanted those to like be softer and breathe a bit more. And so I ended up with this diode configuration that turns on more slowly. It's a little bit asymmetrical, and that sort of became the heart of the sound. And then the other thing I do sort of along with that is I route away some of the high end and low end around the distortion and then mix it back in. So that way, in terms of, transparent overdrive, it just feels more open and natural, and it sort of just maintains your tone versus something like a Klon that can sort of get a little boxy and reedy as you turn the gain up, or a blues driver, which tends to get a little dark and muddy as you turn the gain up.
Yeah, that's a couple of things that I noticed.
And by the way, Tony, tell them what you're playing out of, what your gear is.
It was this was going through my Vox AC-15 hand wired, which is kind of a bright amp. I mean, to begin with, it's chimey, as most Voxes are. And I was, which guitar was? Oh, it was guitar with mini humbuckers. So those are bright. And I definitely, I didn't probably had them at about 10 o'clock, both knobs, maybe drive up a little bit higher. And definitely noticed a lot more bottom end than I was expecting. But I thought that some of the high end was cut back a little bit. And is that true, or is it just my ears playing tricks on me?
It's sort of a little bit of both. So a little bit of high end is routed away from the clipping, the distortion part. So the actual clipping sounds a little bit crunchier, a little bit sort of mid-focused. But, there's still actual semi-clean high end coming in. And so that will just sort of level things out. And then as you sort of roll back the gain, or roll back the volume on your guitar, you sort of still have that whole signal there to play with.
Yeah, that was a nice touch, because I grew up in the distortion pluses, and those things were just so painful at times. The high end on them would just burst your eardrums if you weren't careful. And even with tube screamers and things like that too, they tended to, I think, kind of emphasize the high end, or that's where a lot of the distortion side of it went into, or overdrive went into, on the upper end. But this was nice. It was balanced, and I thought it sounded really good through the amp, and especially with bright pickups and through a bright amp. So it kind of tamed that high end down, but I still felt a nice bottom end presence.
If I'm guessing, I would say that, if you actually love the tone of your guitar in a clean amp, but then you plug in an overdrive pedal and then suddenly it all goes wrong, the tone changes. There's a mid hump, no low end, too fizzy, too wimpy. It's not really tube-like. And you never really find a sweet spot on the controls. That's frustrating, right? How'd I do, Angelo?
Are you reading from the website again?
He said, he already wrote down basically what you just said.
Okay. But I used different words.
You did. But what I like about that is that you said, this is what I experienced previously. This is what I experienced with this new one, and that's literally what is written on the website.
Well, there you go. I did it in a roundabout way.
Yes.
But no, that was my experience, and I
looks
think,
like a banana, tastes like a banana.
Now, the only thing I would say, this could be an option. We were talking when I just got in this afternoon, and
wait. No. I know what you're going to say. Before we suggest, maybe we get an understanding of why these decisions were made.
Okay.
Go ahead. You can ask him. Go ahead.
Can I ask now?
Yeah.
Could we have a tone control or a bright switch, maybe? No. Oh, I screwed up.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
Cat's out of the bag.
Sorry, Todd.
Yeah, tell us about the decision to keep it a two-knob drive.
Sure. Part of that was, again, sort of honoring that pedigree from the Dodd 250 and stuff like that. And then the other was just sort of looking at the landscape of pedals and looking at, pedals with 5 knobs,
Yeah.
several selector switches and things like that. I have where I picked up a Electro Harmonics Battalion, and you could do things like take the tone control and put it pre-overdrive and stuff like that. And I just thought to myself, like, if people are really going to use this thing on a daily basis, it's like, just give them enough knobs to like crank it, go, not have to worry about too much. And it's either going to be like a boost pedal for them, add a little hair, stuff like that, or be sort of like their solo boost. And I just really wanted it to be like user friendly in a real way. And I think sometimes it could be more usable with the tone control. And on the other hand, I think like part of why I like making these designs is sort of making some of those decisions for the player and just really putting a fingerprint on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I appreciate I like simple to use pedals that sound good, and that's what this is.
Yes.
I mean, it's you don't have to think about it very much.
You reiterate that every week.
Yes.
Yes.
Do I?
But yeah, you bring that up a lot, which is, I mean, that's your thing. You're just like, I like it simple, and I like it to do the thing, and if I don't like the thing, then I use a different pedal.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, Todd.
That's all I do every week. So all we're saying, folks, is this is a really fantastic pedal to check out. I like the fact that you didn't just say, I'm going to make something to make something. You tried to solve your own problem. And you did it with a lot of thought. I say that comes through in the sound, that comes through in the design, and it comes through in what you have on your website that explains all that. So can't be mad about that. Or the price. Price is pretty good, people.
Yep. Do it.
Let's talk about the Winter Fuzz. The Winter.
Yeah, the Winter Fuzz. I guess, when I was going through and planning the second pedal, well, of course you have your overdrive, and what do you need more? Distortion. So that's where we went with the fuzz. And I think when, I probably own minimum half a dozen fuzzes, probably closer to 10 if I were to really go in and count. Mm-hmm. And I feel like you either love fuzz or you don't. And one of the things I wanted to do when I approached it was I really wanted to add like a new fuzz flavor in there. And so
the audacity.
I know. And so at the time I was playing a lot of octave fuzzes, obviously the Fuzzmaster General that I had mentioned before, but also the Fender Trapper, and then the MXR Submachine. And so I was playing on those, and I just remember thinking to myself, there's a lot of just random guitar solos and guitar riffs that I love that are octave fuzz. Some old stuff by the hardcore band Glassjaw, some newer stuff around the time I was finalizing the pedal from this Australian band Closure in Moscow. And, it was just a sound that, when pulled off well, I really loved. So, I just decided to go with an octave fuzz that had an upper and lower octave. And so that began the design process. The upper octave is fairly straightforward in terms of design. And I really just sort of rounded it out. So it's not as ear piercing. It's also kind of pushed back a little bit in terms of how the signals are all mixed together, so it's not as overwhelming. And then the lower octave, I will say, the lower octave caused me a lot of pain and strife to design and finalize. So it's an analog lower octave. Going back and looking at some of the old designs like the MXR Blue Box and similar pedals, so there is some liberties taken from something like that. But luckily, I was able to sort of tweak it enough to where it tracks your note substantially better than like an old Blue Box. I think it tracks the note a little bit better than the MXR Submachine, which does an excellent job. That's an excellent fuzz in its own right. And then those two octave signals are pre-blended into your normal clean signal, and then we send that out through what I could only describe as sort of uh, an op amp, a big muff style fuzz. So just something that kind of solidifies it, rounds it out. And that is like the core of the sound. And the thing I love about it really is the fuzz control. With the fuzz totally down, the octaves are really apparent. It sounds really synthy. You turn the tone control down, and the notes get a little bit of like a vowel-y envelope to them, and I think that's really interesting. So, I feel like the range, especially with the tone and the fuzz turned down, is really nice to make some interesting sounds. And then as you turn the fuzz and the tone up, then it just becomes this ripping octave fuzz that kind of fits several uses. I have a good buddy of mine, this guy Johnny Nasty Boots, who's playing a lot of blues music sort of on the Sunset Strip, and plugs it into an SG, plugs it into a Supro, and just goes with it. So that was sort of where my head was at with the Winter Fuzz.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and that was I was going to mention that the especially the low tracking, the octave down, especially on the low strings, was phenomenal. I mean, it was one of the better tracking. I mean, I kind of into some of the like 12-string simulators and things like that, and this one tracked incredibly well. And yeah, the high upper octave is subdued a bit, but it's a very full sound. And you're right, when you turn the tone and the fuzz controls down, it's
subtle.
Well, but it's a totally different kind of sound than not like an Octavia or anything like that. It's
I guess it's subtle in octave fuzz.
Yeah.
land.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, because sometimes, at least this is what I experience. Sometimes it's just like, wow, okay, that's going to tell everybody, hey, here comes an octave fuzz.
Yeah.
And that can be difficult, especially if you're playing in finding where that makes sense in a song. If it's too extreme. And I felt that to be very, very usable.
Yeah.
Now, with the octave, actual, like the fuzz and the octave all working together and everything, is that something that you feel works best, like in the front of your signal chain, or like where do you put that?
That's a good question. In terms of like the old adage of fuzz first, it's very modern in terms of, it doesn't matter where in your signal chain, if you have a buffer, it's not impedance sensitive in that way. So for that, use it wherever you like. I think where I personally like using it is I will stack it to where guitar goes into the Winter Fuzz, and then that goes into the Autumn Drive. Because I feel like, with fuzz pedals and sort of, I guess, any gain pedal really, the old adage is sort of set your amp to like the edge of breakup. And I feel like, putting the Winter Fuzz into an overdrive, it just gives it just a little bit more compression, sort of rounds out the harshness in the attack of it. And, I can continue to play with a little bit more dynamics because there's a little bit more room on the overdrive side to kind of absorb. So that's generally where I like it.
It would be interesting to Tony. I don't think either one of us actually tried this, but it would be interesting to see what the difference is between, like, the Autumn Drive or like any other a soft kind of clipping drive, and seeing what the difference is that the Winter Fuzz was in front of those, on and off, like a Morning Glory kind of thing or something like that.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yes, I'll do that when I get home.
Yes, please do.
Yes.
So, Angelo, let me ask you this. If you could only have one of these two pedals, which would it be?
What?
If I only had one, that's a good question. The one side of me says the autumn drive, just out of pure practicality, but I would go. My heart really goes with the Winter Fuzz because I'm just like, I just want to turn some heads with it.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and I think, you're successful in that because it's. I'm be
Tony
the first to
hates
admit
fuzz.
I don't
He's not
like
a fuzz guy, and he was raving about this. Yeah, that's legit.
Yeah. So
usually, if I hand him a fuzz, I expect him to say, "Okay, I like this or that about it." But at the end of the day, I know he doesn't really go in for fuzz. But he came back and he pulled it out of the bag and he's like, "Okay, blah 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 about this pedal." So well done.
What happens when you run out of seasons?
That's a good question. Behind the scenes, there's been some pitches to do some signature pedals for some artists. None of that's really panned out. But, beyond that, and I guess we'll get into maybe what the next two pedals will be to round out the seasons.
Yeah.
No huge secret there because I've certainly talked to people at NAMM about it. But spring will be a phaser, and then summer will likely be a delay, and then after that, I really do sort of like making pedals in like a series in terms of things that are themed with each other, and design wise, I really wanted these to be sort of really refined, sort of very hi-fi. And then, I think sort of the next thing after that will possibly be a chorus or a flanger or something of that nature. Part of me wants to go back and do some things that are a little bit more vintage inspired. Jackson from Ventura County Guitar Company and I are always talking about doing a guitar together with a built-in fuzz pedal, and I think I might sort of lean much more vintage there. So there's definitely some ideas on the horizon as to which one sort of gets the wind. I guess we'll see sort of what my customers want.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask. You said that you're going to do the spring is going to be a phaser. At any point in time, was that a possibility for a reverb?
I get that a lot because, I do get that a lot. And for a moment it was, but, I just couldn't take the play on words. I just had to subvert expectations. And, the one unifying theme about the seasons pedals is I really felt with the delay, that sort of took care of my giving it some atmosphere. And the phaser really fills in the gap of, okay, I need a whooshy LFO type thing. And then all four pedals together make like a very usable, giggable pedal board.
Oh, that's smart.
Makes sense. I can get behind that. Yeah. So approved. All right, go ahead. Okay. Well, on that fun question note, you mentioned having some artist stuff pop out there, but if you could have one player play your autumn drive, who would that be?
That's an excellent question. And I would have to say, if I could have anybody play it, endorse it, touch it, use it, whatever, it would definitely be Mike Campbell from the Tom Petty Band, Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs. That would be absolute tops. Because I will say, a lot of where my inspiration comes from is not necessarily gear, but it's like records and it's parts. And a big influence on the autumn drive was Tom Petty's Last Dance with Mary Jane. And I just love that guitar part, that guitar tone. And that was really where my mind took off.
I will encourage you to go check out our Instagram soon when we're done with the show. There's a little something I think there recently that you'll appreciate.
Will do.
Okay, how about for the Winter Fuzz?
Ooh, that is a good question. If I could have the guys from Closure in Moscow play it, I think that would be amazing. Closure in Moscow is this band that's been around for quite a while. It's sort of like progressive rock, and the guitar work that they do on their albums is just phenomenal. Just Frank Zappa level. Everything is like just very melodic shred, and the guitar tones and effects they pick and use. It would just, that pedal was a big inspiration based on their records. And, again, I would feel so honored to have my inspiration pick that stuff up.
I'm going to listen to, I don't know what it sounds like, but I'm going to listen to it on the way home from the studio here. Cause I'm intrigued, looking at a couple pictures. Closure in Moscow. All right. I will check that out. As well, I'm sure quite a few other people, they're going to say like, oi. That's all. They're not going to say oi.
Oi.
Oi. Anyways, interesting. You've dropped a lot of stuff that we're not familiar with. Closure in Moscow, a bunch of other stuff. So you got the next couple coming up. Have you already started thinking about like different themes and lines?
Nothing's as solidified. We'll see. One of the things that is really drawing me to it is sort of the Japanese aesthetic, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to be anime based. I love pro wrestling, so that could be another sort of theme I integrate without going too off the rails.
Oh yeah.
But that is definitely up in the air. There's no commitment because there's so many great ideas out there.
I get you. Now, if you want to connect with other bands that love pro wrestling, I will tell you there's a band in town called the Howling Commandos. They're very, very good friends of mine. We've played with them many times. And they've got, I think, at least 3 songs about pro wrestling. And they're out of control. They're amazing. And they have such an awesome stage presence, huge energy. Highly recommend giving them a listen. That's the Howling Commandos.
Absolutely. That is on my list now.
Yes. And let's see. Well, I think that's pretty solid. Angela, I really appreciate you talking about all this stuff about your pedals and letting us get to know. And I will say, everybody, we're talking about the Autumn Drive and the Winter Fuzz. And one really great thing about it, he says it right up front, it's free shipping in the USA. Free shipping, everybody, on some very nicely priced pedals that are made by a human being named Angelo. All right. We are going to dip into one of our favorite segments called...
That's right, Todd. This segment is a little game we play called Would You Rather?
You really got to step this up. No, not louder. No.
Louder.
Wow.
Louder makes
Okay.
it
Yes.
makes it better.
What you got for us?
Okay, well, this is from our good friend Bruce Bacon. This week's Would You Rather, he calls it If 5 Was 7.
Okay. Bruce, always dropping the good would you rathers on
This
us.
one's an interesting one, and one of my favorite characters reappears. It's June 6th, and you're walking down the street and turn onto 6th Avenue when poof, the ghost of Frank Zappa appears and says, "Sorry, my 6-string friend, it's bad karma to go down 6th Avenue on June 6th. The guitar overlords are punishing you for the next 6 months. You play either a 7-string for only 6 months, or you play a guitar a la Keith Richards with 5 strings for 6 months.
Oof.
Which do you choose?"
Both could be a punishment. All right, Tony, thank you for channeling a poorly represented Frank Zappa.
Hey, man.
But
Stop picking on me, Todd. I'm doing my best. It's never enough for you. It's never enough.
I know.
For me, I think I could handle the 5-string. I think that would be the most natural carryover. The 7 strings always confound me.
Yes.
And in fact, I've often thought about finding 7-string guitars because they're not as popular as they once were.
Yeah.
And
then
doing
the
an
Keith
octave.
Richards.
Just doing on the G string.
Yeah.
Running a standard G and an octave G.
That's a great idea, Tony. You
So,
should do that.
I think I'm going to try
Wow.
that
Yeah.
one of these days. But yeah, I think I could easily handle going to 5 strings because you don't need that low E anyhow.
I live on the Yowie. Yeah.
Well, that's you apparently. So
Yeah,
that's
but
my
it didn't
choice.
say which 5. That's the whole thing. So
Well, no, it
that's
said a la Keith Richards, and Keith
all
takes
right.
off the
Yeah,
low
he takes
E.
the low E. All right.
For you have to take off the high E. How's that sound?
Angela, how about yourself?
Well, continuing the train of references that no one remembers, it would be Schecter made this really excellent baritone 5-string, and I would probably go for that over a 7-string guitar, which I may have played 4 minutes in my entire existence on a 7-string guitar. So I would be much more comfortable with a down-tuned 5-string guitar.
Wow.
Look
I'm
that one up,
actively
Todd.
looking this up. What? Yeah, that's weird. That is weird. I'm trying to think of why you would do that.
Because you could.
I guess so. Interesting. A 5-string. Huh. Well, what do you think the use of that is for? I'm just curious. I was not aware of this guitar.
That's a good question. It came out early 2000s, and I think at that point, like Wes Borland's sort of 4-string nookie guitar had come out. I think at the turn of the century, 7 strings were still a fairly new phenomenon, so people were still trying to figure that out. And I think it was just the lowest 5 strings, so that way you didn't have to deal with the gap with the high B and E string on another guitar.
Interesting. Yeah. So it was. It's called the Cello Blaster.
Huh.
Schecter C5X Cello Blaster, 5-string baritone guitar. There's one on sale for $500 on Reverb. Everybody, go and grab it.
Buy it. Buy them all.
Interesting. Well, see,
That's
again, he's bringing all kinds of stuff that we're not aware of.
That's $100 a string.
Yeah. That's boy, oh boy.
Todd, what about you?
I got to go with the. There's no way I can play a 7-string guitar. I just can't. I don't know.
No?
Well, I mean, I probably could, but I don't want to put in the work to do it. So I'm gonna go with Keith on that one.
Okay.
Got to do it.
All right.
Easy peasy.
I guess I'm not alone on the island.
You're not alone on the island this
I
time.
feel good about that.
All right. Thank you, Bruce Bacon, for sending that in. We really do appreciate it. If you have a Would You Rather that you are kicking around in your mind, please send it our way. We got some good ones in recently we'll be going through, but then after that, our supply, don't let our supply go depleted. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, we got some people to thank.
That's right, Todd, because at this part of the show, there's a special group of people we love to thank. These are our executive producers. Now, an executive producer makes this show possible. How do you become one? Easy. Head over to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs. Check out a couple different levels in which you can participate, become a friend, a sponsor, a hero of the podcast, if you will. Each level comes with some very nice thank you gifts and opportunities to win wonderful giveaways. Oh, yes, the prize closet is just jammed full. We've got more to give away. So get over there and sign up. Do it. But in the meantime, there's one thing more that you get from being an executive.
Have your name read on the thing.
Your name read on the thing. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So special
Like
thanks.
Jared just popped in here.
It's just like that, like the ghost of Frank Zappa. So special thanks to these executive producers: John Sebastian, Trevor Ellenberg, Cameron Pampas, James Bell, Michael Furman, Eric Hemmer, Brett Hogarth, Gregory Randall, Don Kloss, Ralph Gottschalk from Wonderful Audio Technology. What? Rusty Sneeden, Vader and Pedals, John Halverson, Rick Calhoun, Trevor Gunberg, I screw this up every day. Elad Mezrahi. I keep mashing his names together. That's not fair. Richard Kendall, James Pennington, James White, Justin Jones, John Esterly from Rare Bzzz Effects, Anthony Lathrop, Stefan Lamb, Michael Senchuk, Ken Sayers, Darren Gregory, Tom Barazin, Michael Davenport, and new this week,
Yay.
Eric Marrow.
Our old friend Eric dipping in.
Thanks for jumping aboard, Eric. You're in good company, my friend.
Heck yeah. Welcome back, Eric. All right.
Todd, stop.
Yes?
Because there's more. Because we have a special group of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs. Now, these fine folks have a fez to wear upon their head whilst listening to the podcast. You see.
And at the same time.
That is correct. And they are the creme de la creme, the top of the heap, the A number ones. Right here.
King of the hill.
That's right. You see, I left you one. I left you there. The low-lying flute. The low-lying flute.
Yeah, that's a different show.
Oops.
Go ahead.
So special thanks to these Grand Poobahs. Adam Johnson, Anthony Gemolero, Billy Spitfire Unlimited, Bob Crouch, Brian Robinson, Cody Foster, David Kaminga, David Tyndall, Enrico Fernando, Fox Hill Studio, Hex Matos, Jack Cadian, James Pennington, John Williams, Jonathan Jerusik from 12th Hour Devices, OSJ Music Company, Matt Hart, Michael Van Zant, Michio Murakishi, Moon Guitars, Paul Von Eppinger, Sam Jett, Steve Keys, Tyler Casey Rhines, Zach Oswald from Brandon Wound Pickups, and Pedro Vasquez. Thank you.
Indeed. Truly, we cannot do this show without you. And from the bottom of our hearts, we do thank you.
Yes.
All right. Angelo, where can people go find these amazing little machines you're making?
They can purchase them on renzosound.com. We also have a Rebirth shop if you search for Renzo Sound. And our Instagram is renzosound_.
Excellent. Tony.
Head over to pickguardian.com. Check out some of the things that I do, which, of course, is custom pick guards. But, there's some stuff you can buy there, but by and large, it's all custom work. So shoot me an email. Let me know what you're trying to do, what you need, what colors, all the good stuff. It's your opportunity to make your guitar even more yours.
Yes. All right. I like it. Hey, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Use that to send us a little message. Tell us what you think about the show, what you love about it, hate about it, whatever. Just say hi and tell us that you're listening. Send some Would You Rathers and stuff.
Yeah, we love that stuff.
We'd love to hear just what your favorite stuff is. It doesn't matter. Just connect with us, okay? In the meantime, while you're doing whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, why don't you plug in the Valentinos over there on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you're doing it?
Yes.
And get some good old rock and roll up in your mug. And then, heck, on the way home from wherever you've been, check out Closure in Moscow.
Yeah.
I don't know what they sound like, but Angelo seems to like him, so that's good enough for us. So Tony and I will both be listening to that separately in the cars.
Yes.
Angelo, we want to say a colossal thank you for spending your time hanging out with us on the show, sending your pedals our way, and for making some really cool machines, man.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. And Todd and Tony, it was a blast. I had a really great time.
Good.
Excellent. All right, everybody. You know what to do. Have a fantastic guitar week and subscribe. What is that?
You like that idea, don't you? You love it.
Mike, the crickets speak for themselves. Ooh, that's some sweet ASMR. Awesome ASMR.
I'm Tony, by the way.
Was it a prosthetic mouth? Like what?
Oh, it must have been.
Man.
And then we have a hairless guinea pig.
What?
Delicious.
Yeah,
Yeah, that takes half the prep time out of the equation.
it does. It does.
Where do I find one of those? Or 10? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I wasn't supposed to bring that up.
I gave away my spare. I do. With the little cowboy boots and the big mustache. And he comes in and then he walks out. He goes, and he walks out and he goes, out of Tom's face, and Tom goes, oh, you know, and then he strings up his guitar and he's, where was I just made a crabbo? No, I just did the whole sketch. We hate laughing here.
No, this is very serious. So,
yes. So wait, that's got to be. Is it like? I mean, is that holding like a dry liver or something? Like what? What does that feel like? Have you ever seen the movie With Nail and I?
He just has like a little patch of hair around his like nose and stuff. But yeah,
German?
very similar. maybe.
oh my.
Enough with that funny business, man. And away we go.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.